Yes, Ashe, Ashe and Grand Rising. A grand day to you all once again, my fellow humans, and of course, to be very specific, Ashe and Grand Rising, a grand day to you all, my fellow natural, native, earthly humans. Natural, native, earthly humans. For those of you who know me, you know why I emphasize natural, native, and earthly humans. So, again, welcome to this part 3 of another of my thought provoking perspective, my thought provoking presentations titled Retirement Plan for people 40 to 75. Talking about retirement here. Another perspective, yes, yours truly, I, the Mystic Philosopher. And just to remind you, as is my custom, that it is high time for thinking, for reason, and for reasoning. Now, my dear beloved watchers, listeners, and my people, if you haven't yet watched part 1 and part 2, I ask that you please do so now before you're watching this here part 3. So, continuing from part 2, what is meant by the word retirement? And what is the real, practical, and uncompromised truth about this thing called retirement? Now, let me go to the English dictionaries, because this is not my language, and I like to stick as close as possible to the authorities of the language, the meaning and definition. And first, I will read and give you the direct quotes, verbatim, from each dictionary. And then I will read each meaning and definition separately again. But this time I will break it down and give you my literal interpretation of them. So, according to dictionary number one, which is the Cambridge English Dictionary Online, and I quote, retirement is, I quote, one, actually I have two meanings and definition. One, the act of leaving your job and stopping working, usually because you are old. And two, retirement is the point at which someone stops working, especially because of having reached a particular age or because of ill health or the period in someone's life after the person has stopped working, unquote, again, according to the Cambridge English Dictionary Online. Now, allow me to give you my interpretation of those two meanings and definitions of retirement from the Cambridge English Dictionary as promised. One, the act of leaving your job or the act of leaving our job, aka, as you know, listening from part 1 to part 2, the labor force, which is again is the forced labor, the workforce, aka the force to work. Usually because you are old, or usually because we are old, usually because we are old, worn out, broken up, and useless, etc. As mentioned in part 2, we can't function. If you remember, I talked about it in part 2. We are unable to function effectively and efficiently anymore because we are old, almost good for nothing in the labor force. This is fact. The labor force now need new machines, new bodies to keep up production, and so they're redundant. The old ones, they get rid of the old ones. This happens everywhere. New computer, new everything. Once you become useless and old, they're redundant you, or redundant us. And so the system goes. That's just so the thing said. Not pretty it up. You can pretty it up to satisfy your own whatever. But the fact is the fact. And as the saying goes, behold, all things have passed away, and all things become new. That's what the thing said. Number two, the point, according to the dictionary, the point at which someone stops working, especially because of having reached a particular age or because of ill health, or the period in someone's life after the person has stopped working, unquote. Now, most people, or at the very least, a lot of people retire or is forced to retire because of ill health. They're not working till you become sick. Now, my interpretation, and the Mystic Philosopher's interpretation of ill health is that we are broken and literally on our way out of here, out of this space, out of this possible dimension, or of this planet. So how are you going to tell me and have me accept as fact that the best days of my life is when I retire from the labor force? Especially when the evidence is hereby showing and proving that the best days of my life have been given or taken away in the labor force. The best days of our lives are when we're young, or when we were young. Those years I talked about it, just reiterating certain facts right here as I get deeper into this topic. From my perspective, it does not matter what I may have so-called achieved. It's my perspective. It doesn't matter what I may have accomplished or accumulated in and from the workforce. The fact still remains that it means little or nothing if and when my health is ruined. You work how many years to pay off the house? You work how many years to build the mansion? And sometimes some people build this big huge mansion and never spend a night in it. They take sick. Because your best day is gone. What I, the Mystic Philosopher, would be doing now with some fancy, elaborate sports car and thing. When I needed that to pick up the girls, I didn't have it. I was busy working, struggling, trying to survive. Now, see some old guy trying to behave like we're 25 and you know what I'm talking about. It doesn't really make sense. The best days are already gone. Moreover, we all know that what? Health is wealth. When you have no health, regardless of what you have to look upon, you build the big house and you can't walk up the stairs because the system walk you out. Yeah, best days of your life. Always remember that, young people. If any young person want to watch this, please learn that the best days of your life is when you're young. Now, according to Wikipedia, again on the subject of retirement, what is retirement? According to Wikipedia, and I quote, retirement is the withdrawal from one's position or occupation or from one's active working life. A person may also semi-retire by reducing work hours or workload. Now, I continue by saying many people choose to retire when they are elderly or when they are incapable of doing their job due to health reasons. People may also retire when they are eligible for private or public pension benefits, although some are forced to retire when their bodily conditions no longer allow the person to work any longer. by illness or accident, or as a result of legislation concerning their positions, etc. Unquote. This is what I'm talking about. This system work we out and then dispose of us. Don't let nobody fool you about this fancy thing called retirement. Whether it's your financial planner, whether it's your preacher, whoever, or your boss, or whoever. But retirement is not the best days of our lives. Because we only have a few more days left. We know that as a fact. Why don't you think carefully about it? And what is the Mystic Philosopher's practical and realistic interpretation of all this? It means that we have either been robbed or have consciously or unconsciously, naively or otherwise given the best days, the best months, the best years, the best times of our lives to the system, to our family, and others, and now we are considered worthless, if anything at all, to the system. And please allow me to repeat, and this time with emphasis, retired people like myself are considered worthless, if not worth nothing to the system, and sometimes even to our families. We are no more of value to the system. We are no more of use to the system's labor force. In all practical reality, we are now considered and is treated as a liability than as an asset, and thus we are set to be what? Disposed of. Or we are being disposed of. From my perspective, when a company retires us from the job, the forced labor, aka the job is the same thing, the forced labor or the labor force, what they are euphemistically saying to us and telling us is to go home and die. For we have no more use for you. That is what they are euphemistically saying to us, even though they put on the party. It's like fare well, hope you fare well, goodbye. And so retirement literally means that we are just wasting in the pasture. So rather, we are just waiting. That's wasting too, in the pasture. Or we must just wait. And sometimes some of us are just lingering until we finally exhale. Go wait to exhale. Or drop out, as we would say in Jamaica. Drop out, aka die. And so for those of us that may think that the system still see us as valuable, or still see any worthwhile value in us after it retire us, are still being deceived. In other words, our retirement in and from the system may or can be compared to that of retiring anything, be it a work animal or a work machine. It simply means that we are being put out to what? Pasture. And what does it mean by being put out to pasture? To answer that question, here's a quote from idiom.com, or rather, idiom.freedictionary.com. To put to pasture, literally, to retire an animal from working by allowing it to roam in a field or pasture. This horse has been my constant companion for the last 15 years on the ranch. But now I think it's time to put him out to pasture. You ought to put that old donkey out to pasture, don't you think? Unquote. So as it relates to a human, to put out to pasture literally means to retire a person from working by allowing him or her to roam in a field or pasture, whatever, wherever, or however we may conceive that to be. Example, the system, aka our slave master or masters, will say, this horse, this person, this slave, this servant, this employee has been my constant companion for the last 40 to 50 years. on the ranch or on the plantation or in the company. But now the evidence is here by showing that he or she is not as productive. He or she is getting weak and forgetful. He or she is making too much mistakes, etc., etc. I think it's about time to put him or her out to pasture. Sometimes it is the supervisor or our supervisor that will go to the boss and suggest to the boss, it's time you ought to put that old slave, that old donkey, that old man, that old woman, that old employee out to pasture. Don't you think, boss? You see how much mistake he or she is making? So if or when we see some people that give 40 to 50 years of their lives, the best years of their lives, I might add, to their job or to their company, to the labor force, aka the workforce. And the company may appear generous. Some company may appear generous. Some labor camp may appear generous in giving them a so-called good pension, and you may see or hear of some of them taking trips, retiring out, taking trips, taking boat cruise, a whole bunch of old people on a boat cruise. And you may even see some of them bungee jumping and others jumping out of planes, etc. Trying to make up the battery play. The truth be told, the best days of their lives are already being given or have already been taken away from them by the aforementioned system. And now, like any retired old left to dead farm animal, they are just being afforded an opportunity to roam the fields. Yes, the whole field is open to you because you are no more threat. You know, all your youthfulness, your alertness, all your gone. So you are now left like any old animal. We are no different. We are treated no different than the farm animal that has been retired. Is left to roam the fields as they patiently, or as we patiently await expiration, aka death. I just said the thing said. We're all slaves, my people. It doesn't matter your capacity, as mentioned before. Regardless of what position you have and what. We're all victims of the system. Even those that enslave us don't even realize that they are slaves because they always have to answer to somebody above them or something above them. Take for instance, a retired racehorse, or by extension, retired racehorses, some retired racehorses, retired race dogs, retired circus animals, etc. You know that did not prepare for themselves to meet the harsh and factual reality that awaits them. Or those that were fortunate enough to receive or fortunate enough to be given a good enough pension that will allow them to roam the fields or the pasture. The evidence will show that most, if not all, are just left to the mercy of some people's goodwill, or left to the mercy of some of charity, or of some charity foundation, or some sanctuary, while others are just left to waste away and sometimes die a very miserable and torturous death. That's just what the system said. And so from my perspective, that is the reality of retirement in and from this system. So now that hopefully we all know what retirement really means, or at the very least, now we know what retirement really means in this reality. Let us look at the word plan and what a plan really is. And it is definitely not my intention to insult anyone's intelligence. But from my personal experience, while talking to a lot of people, I have come to the realization that a lot of people really and truly don't know what a plan is. And as a result of their ignorance, they simply don't plan, and consequently they have no plan about anything whatsoever, let alone a plan for their own life. In fact, if ask a lot of people, what is a plan? They just can't give you a concise meaning and definition of the word plan. And if you don't know what I'm saying, just ask the person that is nearest to you, or the first person that you come in contact with the moment you finish listening to this my talk. Ask them what a plan is. And from my perspective, the reason why a lot of people really and truly don't know what a plan is because they have never seriously given it much thought. They just believe that they already know what in fact, when in fact, they only know the word and conveniently use the word plan. But they really and truly don't know the real meaning and importance of the word plan. I have found that some people think that a plan is something that they can just do haphazardly. Something that they can just do in the spur of the moment or in a careless manner. Most people don't know that a plan is something strategic and something that we do strategically. Thus the phrase strategic planning. For example, if we don't have a strategic plan to make money, we will never make money. And if by chance or for some form of good luck we get a lump sum of money, a financial, what they call it, a financial windfall, if you will. For example, if we win the lottery or receive some inheritance, etc., because we did not have a strategic plan to make money, then we will never be able to keep that money, because the evidence will show that the main purpose of a strategic plan is to make money. The strategic plan to make money is to keep the money we make. The statistics also shows that almost all, if not all lottery winners eventually go bankrupt within a very short period of time, according to the Certified Financial Planner Board of Standards, CFPBS. And I quote, lottery winners are more likely to declare bankruptcy within 3 to 5 years than the average American. And nearly 1/3 of lottery winners eventually declare bankruptcy, unquote. Why? They fail to keep the money. And according to Forbes, at Forbes.com, the first commandment of strategic planning is don't fail. That's the first commandment. Don't fail. And as the saying goes, most people don't plan to fail, they only fail to plan. I would be remiss if I did not point out the fact that from my perspective, there is no plan, strategic or not, that is infallible. There is not a plan that is risk-free. Therefore, even the best of all plans can fail, and from time to time do fail. That's a reality. Everything in this thing that we call life is a risk or has risk. My mother, for example, risked her life giving birth to me. That's risk. You name it, and it is a risk, or there are risks involved. But I will have much more to say on this at a later time. So not just because there's risk in plan mean you shouldn't plan. And just because all risk, there is no plan that is risk-free mean that we shouldn't plan. But more on that at another time. And what is a plan? A plan, by meaning and definition, is one, a detailed proposal for doing or achieving something. Again, a detailed proposal for doing or for achieving something. And two, an intention or decision about what one is going to do, unquote. That's the dictionary's definition of plan. So if we know and know that we have to take care of ourselves when the system retire us and put us out to pasture, then the next logical question is this: what is a retirement plan? When they dump it. Simply put, and from my perspective, a retirement plan for those of us that are awakened and knowledgeable of all the aforementioned facts about retirement and are still of sound mind and physical capability. A retirement plan is how we plan to live, how we plan to survive, and where we plan to live and where we plan to survive when the system and others put us out to pasture before we are forced to lay down in the green pastures. Or to lay me down in green pastures, you know what I'm talking about. That is my perspective. However, according to a website called Investopedia at investopedia.com, a retirement plan is, and I quote, retirement plan involves determining retirement income goals and what's needed to achieve those goals. Retirement planning includes identifying income sources, sizing up expenses, implementing a saving program, and managing assets and risk. Future cash flow are estimated to gauge whether the retirement income goals is possible, or the retirement income goal is possible. You can start, it continues by saying you can start at any time, but it works best if you factor into your financial planning as early as possible. Yeah, so the earlier you plan, the better. The fun part, as possible, that's the best way to ensure a safe, secure, and fun retirement. The fun part is why it makes sense to pay attention to the serious and perhaps boring part. Planning how you will get there. Unquote. That is a definition of retirement. In summary, and from my perspective, my people, so I'll wrap it up here. In summary, and from my perspective, unless we plan to die the day of our retirement or immediately thereafter, as soon as they say we're done with you, we drop dead, or we just plain, or we just plan to flow with the wind, or as the saying goes, then a retirement plan is imperative. But then again, I'll get back to this later. I think I run a lot of time here. This is going to be the end of part 3, as I try to provoke you, as I provoke myself. So please join me in part 4 for the continuation of retirement plan for people 40 to 75, another perspective, with yours truly, the Mystic Philosopher. And where and when, in part 4, I will address and answer question 3 from the list of questions, namely, what are some of the traditional and common types of retirement plans? I hope to see you there. I hope you see me there. I hope you join me there or then. In the meantime and between time, my dear beloved people, in your becoming old, becoming whatever, I will that you be more and more and much, much more, and definitely not less, aka be less. For I am the Mystic Philosopher. Ashe, 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 I say.